Most people think financial collapse looks dramatic. Bankruptcy, foreclosure, total ruin. But in reality, financial collapse usually begins with something much smaller. A medical bill, a broken transmission, a layoff email. One unexpected moment that arrives at the worst possible time. And suddenly, a financially stable person realizes something terrifying. They were never actually secure. They were simply surviving while hoping nothing went wrong. Because modern life trains people to optimize for consumption, not resilience. People are taught how to spend, how to finance, how to upgrade. But very few people are taught how to survive uncertainty. And that's why millions of people live one emergency away from financial panic.
The illusion of stability. A paycheck can create the illusion of safety. As long as money keeps arriving every 2 weeks, everything feels manageable. Bills get paid. Subscriptions continue. Debt remains hidden beneath routine. But many people are not financially stable. They are financially dependent. Dependent on continuous income. Dependent on perfect health. Dependent on predictable life conditions. And the dangerous part is, life is rarely predictable. Jobs disappear. Accidents happen. Economies slow down. Families experience emergencies. Which means a person without financial protection is often one disruption away from chaos. That's the true purpose of an emergency fund. Not wealth, not luxury, not investing. Survival.
Why most people never build one?
Most people don't ignore emergency funds because they're irresponsible. They ignore them because modern life feels expensive. Rent rises. Groceries rise. Insurance rises. Everything competes for attention and money. And psychologically, saving money for an invisible future problem feels unrewarding. Humans naturally prioritize immediate comfort over distant protection. Which is why many people spend first and save whatever remains. Unfortunately, almost nothing remains. And social media quietly makes this worse, because people constantly see lifestyles, not financial foundations. Luxury vacations, new cars, expensive apartments. But almost nobody posts their emergency savings account. Preparedness is invisible. Consumption is visible. And modern culture rewards visibility.
How to actually build an emergency fund?
The biggest misconception about emergency funds is believing you need thousands of dollars immediately. You don't. The first goal is not perfection. It's stability. Start small. Very small if necessary. $50, $20, even $10 consistently saved begins changing your financial behavior. Because the habit matters first. Then the amount grows later. Over time, many financially disciplined people aim to save around 10% of their income consistently. Not because 10% is magical, but because consistency compounds. And eventually, small monthly sacrifices create meaningful protection. Not overnight, but quietly.
How much should you save?
There is no universal emergency fund number, because financial risk changes depending on lifestyle, income stability, and responsibility. A single person with stable employment may feel comfortable with around 3 to 4 months of essential expenses, not salary, essential expenses, the amount needed to survive. But married couples often aim slightly higher, usually around 4 to 6 months, because shared responsibilities create shared financial risk. And families with children especially in unstable economic conditions, often target 9 to 12 months or more because children make financial emergencies far less flexible. Healthcare costs rise, food costs rise, housing pressure increases, and recovering from financial disruption becomes much harder. Freelancers and self-employed workers often require the largest emergency funds of all, sometimes 9, 12, even 18 months of expenses, because unpredictable income creates unpredictable survival conditions. Clients disappear, projects dry up, entire industries slow down unexpectedly. And that's the important distinction many people miss. Emergency funds are not based on optimism. They are based on vulnerability. The less predictable your life and income are, the larger your financial safety net should become. Because emergency funds are not designed for ideal situations. They exist for unstable ones.
Where should you keep it? An emergency fund should not live somewhere difficult to access, and it should not be aggressively invested. Its purpose is not maximum returns. Its purpose is survival, liquidity, speed, availability. Which means emergency funds usually belong inside low-risk, highly accessible financial instruments. For many people, that means high-yield savings accounts, separate savings accounts, money market accounts, or other low-risk cash equivalents. Some people also use short-term certificates of deposit or treasury bills for portions of their emergency savings, especially if they already have a stable base emergency fund built. But the important rule is simple. An emergency fund should not depend on market timing. Because during real emergencies, stock markets can crash, crypto can collapse, and volatile investments can become impossible to rely on emotionally. Emergency money should remain boring, predictable, stable. And psychologically, it helps to separate emergency savings from daily spending accounts. Visible enough to access quickly, invisible enough to avoid temptation. Some financially disciplined people even avoid attaching debit cards or mobile payment apps to emergency accounts entirely, because the easier money feels to spend, the harder it becomes to protect.
When should you use it? Not for vacations. Not for shopping opportunities. It exists for genuine disruption, medical emergencies, critical repairs, temporary unemployment, unexpected survival-level expenses. And once used, the goal becomes rebuilding it again as quickly as possible. Because emergencies rarely arrive with warning, and financial resilience requires maintenance. The real purpose of money?
Most people think financial freedom means luxury. But often, real financial freedom is much quieter than that. It's the ability to experience uncertainty without immediate panic, to lose a job without losing stability, to face hardship without financial collapse. An emergency fund will never look impressive online. Nobody brags about it. Nobody shows it off. But quietly, it may be one of the most important financial decisions a person ever makes. Because sometimes, the true purpose of money is not status. It's peace of mind.